Hey guys, welcome to the secret history living in your aquarium. Today we are going to be talking about what are we going to be talking about? Low tech plants, and we're going to be putting together an assortment of them for a friend of the channel, a new friend of the channel who is a member of our local fish club. And I'm just going to highlight some of my favorite low tech plants. Now, these are in this tank, they're in high tech, but I'll actually show you them growing in low tech so you can compare the different colors and things. But, it's never a bad idea to keep some plants that look nice in a high tech tank if they'll live in a low tech tank and just keep them by your side. So right here, I'm going to start with Limnophilia aromatica. It's got a lovely purple underside, purple hue, and it's very similar to a Rotala, but it gets longer, spikier leaves. And that is one that I would recommend for having an aqua soil or something along those lines for it at least. And you don't really need to do much. You just plant it and trim it when it's too long. Next up, I would recommend that you go for a Ludwigia. Now, there are all sorts. There are super reds, and there are, variegated. This one is, I want to say this was called Red Star, and it has a little bit of variegation, which means you can see the actual veins of the plant, and they'll be highlighted a different color generally. So this here is a hygrophila that is actually introduced to my area outside of Seattle. You're not allowed to buy or sell it, but it has taken over in the wild, and I think it's a beautiful plant. But I have it, but I can't buy or sell it. But that is variegation, just to show you when I say variegated. That's an extreme version of it. And this is a Ludwigia that is variegated. Now, if you plant this in a lower light situation, it is going to actually grow nodes in between leaves. When I say nodes, I mean each little intersection. It is going to grow them much tighter. So you'll see that as it's reaching for light, it'll either bolt and go towards the light if it's got a good solid source of highlight, or it will stay more compact and just slowly use its energy to grow a hardy stem. So here it's bolting towards the top in this high-tech tank, whereas I have a piece here from another tank, and this is a little bit different plant, repens versus glandulosa Ludwigia, and you can see that there's a little bit of a different leaf shape, and this one is, I believe, the as I said, the fire red star fire version versus just a normal Ludwigia repens or glandulosa. Next up, we've got Cat Bomba furcata, but we could also go with Cat Bomba caroliniana. Carolinianus is just a purple version. Purple Cat Bomba is its common name. Here we've got Fire Cat Bomba or Pink or Sunset. There's several names, but furcata is the Latin name. That's the important part you should remember. And it closes at night like this, and then in the daytime it opens up, and it is a beautiful plant. I have not added any iron or fertilizers to this tank in a while, but there is aqua soil in it, and so this is the brighter end of the color spectrum that you would expect to see in that plant. Next up, as we rush through these, we've got Cygnet Es Bellum, which is a wonderful plant. And it looks like something out of a Dr. Seuss book, does it not? This one can get leggy if you don't have good nutrients in the soil or substrate, as it may be. You want to have either root tabs or some sort of aqua soil, definitely. If you want it to look nice and bushy like this with a nice crown. Now, I'm actually picking a good assortment of this for her because I love this plant so much. It fills out a nice area, it can grow tall, and it's semi-wide also. And then the other thing is when you trim it, you'll get these shoots growing off to the side, and you can either leave it like this and let it get bushier, or you can cut those and plant them on your own also. So it's another great one. Over here, we have, dun, 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 this came from the tank across the way, which I'll take you to in a moment. But this is Bacopa. This is Bacopa carolinianus, or caroliniana. I can't remember between the Cat Bomba and the Bacopa. One is carolinianus and one is caroliniata. T versus UINS, I think. But they both have that variety. These Bacopas also come in a Colorado version, which has a beautiful like red color to it. Sometimes it's called saffron. You get like a yellow and orange variations of it. And it is a very hardy plant. It's got a hollow stem that is very rigid, in that here we could cut this every 2 to 3 inches easily, like here, and then again in half there, and we could get 3 starts out of this easily. And this plant will stand up on its own. It's lovely in emergent growth if you want to grow it up out of the tank. And I highly recommend that plant. It's just a great one. Also, we have Rotala here, and I'm just going to work on picking it so that I don't take all your time up, but we'll take a look at it while I'm pulling away at it. And there are several varieties, and I would say if I were you, other than H-Raw and Wallachia, this is Wallachia or Wallachia Rotala, other than the fine needle Rotalas, which are actually very hard to grow in a low-tech tank, not impossible, but very hard, I would stay away from those if you're new to this, or if you just don't have a setup that is that level. I would stick with the Rotala. You can get mini butterfly even. That is one of the ones that has some nice red hues in it. In a lower tech tank, the best color you're going to see is something more along these lines down in here, rather than the brighter colors you can actually attain in a highlight situation. So these are definitely going to stay in your green range of colors when they're in a low light situation, but they're just a beautiful plant and easy to grow. They will grow through gravel, and you can trim them, you can cut them in half, and they are just fine. If you cut it in half once it's growing, they're just fine, and they'll put out these runners like I'm showing you here. Actually, this is a very nice one. So this is the mini butterfly version, and it is a Rotala macronda, and that's just the species that it came from in the wild, and it's just got this lovely purple hue on it, and some reds and some fire colors, and then on the top it's all still green, but it'll send out these shoots trying to get it to propagate. So it wants to root itself, and you can actually float it on its side in an aquarium like this up at the top, and you can get that plant to send out a bunch of runners and then bury this thing sideways with just like maybe the crown sticking out, and it will send up 5, 6, 7, 8 plants. So it's a really cool plant in that regard, and I highly recommend it. You can also see that when it's in the shade, like over in the corner, the butterfly, the macronda butterfly, gets very, very teeny, and it grows denser, tighter together, and smaller leaves. Whereas when you blast it with high light, it just basically says, "I'm going for broke," and it just floors it, just like this Rotala Vietnam. This is Rotala Vietnam Purple, and it's just a normal kind of your wild found Rotalas, rather than some of the outlandish ones that humans have created, like your mini butterflies, your super reds, your fires, your sunsets. Now, another great plant is going to be Bulbitis. So this is actually a fern, and this is Bulbitis hedulata. It's a great plant. It has a rhizome that it grows out of. If you take a look over here, and it will be growing out of just a little chunk of root type thing, just like an Anubias plant would or a Java fern would. So you can literally tie it to a rock, glue it to a rock, and call it good. Rock it and forget it. And yeah, it's another real easy but beautiful plant. It's really sturdy. If you have goldfish or maybe larger fish, Oscars and things that tend to just pick at things and rip things up, you might want to give it a shot. You might want to give it a try. I don't know. And just to show you the size difference of some of these Rotalas here, look at how small some of these Rotalas can be versus, and their color difference. So we've got the wild varietal here that has the green versus some of the man-made or man-selected, man and woman, I should say, selected varieties. And then also some of these needle varieties here. But as I said, be careful with the needle varieties if you're new. So over here, we've got Alternantheria renicii. AR is what it's called oftentimes. This is AR mini. This is a really great plant in that here you could easily get 2 different starts from this plant. It is a bright pink plant, and it will turn more of a brown color in lower light, but it is still, it's a hardy plant. You have to actually be careful because its stem can snap. It's so springy it can snap. But the underside of the leaves are a neon/electric pink that is just incredible. And then here is a variegated, or as I've said in the past, variegated. Here's a hygrophila. Variegated means you can see the veins in the leaves and stems. So that's just, in my opinion, a very cool effect that has been selected for in many domesticated plants and things. And we've got another Ludwigia red star plant here. It's got a darker red color and more of like this spray paint diffused red and pink, and then more of a bronze or copper on top. So you're going to have a lot of Ludwigias, Rotalas that are great for your tanks. Crypts are another great one, but in this video I'm going to stick mostly with stem plants. But a lot of your cryptocorns, however you'd like to say it, are really good for low light tanks. They can grow really well. We've got a Hedori there, Crypnuri Rosen Maiden back there. We've got some pink flamingos starting, hiding kind of interlaced amongst things under there. And there's a lot of Crypt undulata, Crypt lutea that are very, Crypt parva that are all great species that I highly recommend. I'm definitely going to recommend, so here, this was from a lower tech tank also brought over here to just start a new start. But this is the same Cat Bomba. This is the purple variety, and it's long enough here that I'm actually going to snip it with a fingernail. You should probably use scissors, but if you've got a sharp fingernail, I leave my thumbnail sharp so I can do that usually. I work a lot with my thumb and my index in the tank. And make sure to wash your hands, obviously, if you're working in a tank this long. But that is the purple form of this. Works great in low light, and it can grow up to 6 inches in a day, which yowza, that is fast. So here is the mini purple Rotala, the Macronda purple Vietnamese Rotala. Just thought I'd show you guys one more Rotala if you didn't get enough of them. They come in all of the reds, greens, yellows, purples, pinks, all the colors in between those that I just mentioned, and they're lots of fun. So other than those plants, let's get to another one. So here is one that's a little less common, but you can definitely find it online, and this is Potamogeton gayi. And it has a lovely feature in that you can definitely, when it grows, it just will have this kind of cool profile of almost like a palm frond that's come unstacked, and it will send out runners if it doesn't have enough nutrients in the ground or if its roots are not fixed solid enough. But it has these lovely stripes. If you're curious about my fingernails, the last few videos, and why the heck I have fingernail polish on, you'll have to go back to the other videos and find that out. But in the leaves here, we've got really cool stripes, really easy to take care of. This will grow out of rocks or sand just as easily. You can float it just like a hornwort or a moneywort. The Bacopa Monieri that you see sometimes sold, this back here, is actually also known as moneywort. And so the Monieri moneywort leaves look like little coins. Just another little side note while we're here. Okay, so down here we've got Ludwigia ex lacustris, and Ludwigia. Do we have any arcuata in here? No, I think we'll have to go downstairs to see the arcuata. But Ludwigius ex lacustris, and it is a lovely plant that has, let's find more of it back here too, that has this kind of copper bronze look, and it will look just like this in low-tech light too. It'll get more golden and bronzy in high-tech over time, but it's another just spectacular plant that I highly recommend. It is found all the way from Rhode Island to Georgia, and it is a natural hybrid that occurs in plants, in plants. Well, yes, it does occur in that plant, but it occurs in lakes around the United States. And again, if we're looking at the Ludwigia, here is the difference between repens and glandulosa. Glandulosa, you've got the little leaves usually, and then the repens have these nodules that are farther apart and bigger, longer leaves rather than the little round, stubby leaves. That's not always the case, but usually. All right, so wow, we got a collection of plants for her here. I usually do this just to help out with people who are trying to get their collection going. And over here, this is a totally low-tech tank. Now, we did already grab a lot of the species you saw are actually from this tank, so we won't have to go over too much over here. But here's that Hygrophila pinnatifada, or not pinnatifada, sorry, Hygrophila sunset, so it goes by Rosevig, or yeah, I guess Rosevig's probably the most common that you'll see online. And unfortunately, it's too much of a pest to legally buy. But if you check in your local waterways, you may find it along with like parrot's feather and milfoil and Eurasian milfoil, as well as red milfoil, things like that. And over here, we've got some of the Ludwigias growing in a lower light. They're in very low light because they're blocked out by all of this stuff here. And here's more of the Bulbitis hedulata growing freely. There is that rhizome upside down. This tank just got kind of flipped upside down as I got some cichlids out of it, actually. But you can really see that, and over here you can really see lower down the moneywort, or the Bacopa Monieri, the leaves that look like coins rather than these little leaves that look like, I don't know, leaves. So just some differences there. Now here we have a really great plant that takes over. This is Valsenaria, and this is a red metallic val. The reason it's called red metallic val is because as it grows, it gets to turn to this color of this beautiful red metal color. And as it breaks off, it'll float away in your tank or tangle up, and you'll get these beautiful colors. But Valsenaria, whether it's jungle val, corkscrew val, any of the vals are a really easy plant to take care of. Highly recommend them. And likewise, so is this. If you're spawning things like guppy fry, this is Nadja Grass, also known as Gabby Grass. And Gabby Grass is, it can be planted. I usually just float it. Kind of looks like cilantro or something. A little less leafy than that, but it's got the same feel. The stem and bristliness of it is very similar to like a cilantro, oddly. And it will grow in nodes also, and you can just cut it, rip it wherever. Even small pieces of this will break off and become a big old tangle like this. of grass, and it's just a floating plant in the wild that breaks off from its source and then floats down and establishes its new colonies, which I think is pretty cool. And here you can see that corkscrew Val twisting. And some Java fern. We're not going over rhizome plants, but you've got the petite Anubias, another great low light plant here, little teeny plant. It's a little more expensive, the Anubiases tend to be, but they're very sturdy against bigger cichlids and goldfish and things. And then here we've got Java fern growing, and it can grow in very low light and be just fine. It likes nitrates, which is kind of an odd thing. It really likes, I mean, all plants do, but it likes higher nitrates, and it can withstand abuse of not checking up on the tank all the time. So let's hop downstairs, finish this off. I'm going to include one more sprig of Potamogeton. You can see this plant again. I'm going to make sure the snails are off of it. But look at, I mean, just look at that. It's a very cool looking plant as it gets longer in low light. This one has more consistent colors, but as I said, in the highlight, you really start to see bronzes and just different colors popping out of it that you were like, where did that color? Like, I didn't notice that before. Oh, and we have an escape artist. Hello. So somebody needs to go back in their tank. This snail's name is Cracky, if you've been watching the channel for a while, because he has escaped so many times that he's cracked his shell. And so I'm always really careful and gentle with him when I try to coax him back. But he's cracked this shell so many times. There's a blanket below him in case he falls again. But he really gets up and over the lip, unlike any nearite snail I've ever had. So, whatever. That's not plants, so forget about it. Lastly, on this tank, Marimo moss balls. Super low effort, don't have to do anything, a great low light plant. Same with the Aponogetons. There's Aponogeton crispus, which is just a long, swirly Aponogeton. And then there's Aponogeton Madagascar lace, which looks like the trippiest alien plant ever. Another easy one. And then lastly, while we're here, Sawassertang, which is just this Pellia type plant that grows very similar to kind of like the water ferns in its texture and things, like you can see over here, but it has more of a see-through jelly green color, and it will grow into big mats just like the Nadja Grass, and is perfect for fry, just like you see how I'm leaving fry in here. It'll make it so the big fish can't eat them at all. All right, let's hop downstairs, finish this off. If you enjoyed this and you stuck around this long, please like, subscribe, follow. If you want to help out the channel, if you're in the area and you need plants, you want to contact me, have a question, any of those things, just get at me by subscribing, liking, and so forth. If you want to support the channel itself, keep things running around here, be first up on stuff I am breeding and new experiments, new species, and new profiles, please take a look at my Patreon page or my Teespring page. I've got some interesting artwork on t-shirts and hoodies and iPhone cases, things like that. That's all shrimp and fish related, anatomical, artistical, funical type drawings. So check those out in the links below, as well as some of my favorite products and where I buy my plants and discount codes for you to buy the plants and all sorts of fun stuff if you made it this far. All right, we're going to finish up downstairs. If I lost you, if I lose you, thanks for watching, and let's finish this on up. Holy smokes, what a madman! Look at this crazy tank. So this is all going to be low light under here. I guess there's some highlight up here if you want to consider the water lettuce. Look at these water lettucei. Look at them. I'll include some of those for her too, just because they're fun, especially if you've got a new tank. And a few will do you. They will take over, but they are better than duckweed. Duckweed will ruin your life. Don't try duckweed, not even once, kids. Duckweed is the little plant there that just, it will get everywhere and ruin your life, I swear. All right, so here, as I was saying, you can float plants on their side and get them to send out these beautiful pink roots. And these pink roots will root themselves if you put it down in the substrate. And that's exactly what I did in some of these cases. And over here, we've got another Ludwigia, if that name sounds familiar. This is Ludwigia arcuata, and you can see these like little needle leaves, very spindly leaves. And then there's some solid stalks kind of at the center. It's kind of an interesting plant that way. But it's just a lovely plant, and it is definitely one of my favorites. And it just has kind of this, let's see if we can kind of clean it up on its own a bit. It's got this nice presence about it, where it kind of has these towering pieces of its own, and then it's got these swirling, they come at a curve, bronze and copper colored pieces also. And just like all these other stem plants, all you have to do is snip it and it will grow right back from wherever you snipped it, and you can plant it. It's the amazing thing about especially low-tech stem plants. Like here we've got another Hygrophila plant, and all you have to do with these, you just snip it, and you can plant it wherever you break it off. Basically, you just want to break it off somewhere solidly on the stem rather than right on the node, because a lot of times it will grow from the node, but you want to just give that some area to be able to die, to break off and do its darn thing. And here it gets so dark sometimes over here that I get a little bit of black algae, black beard type algae, and it doesn't take over my tank because of just the nature of the balance in this tank and all the good algae that's around. But be careful with super low light tanks sometimes when they get overcrowded like this. This one really needs to be thinned out, and I'm gonna get her some of this arcuata, Ludwigia arcuata, beautiful plant. Love this one, and you can see here where it's been snipped several times at this height because it's got different shoots all coming off from that point. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm actually going to give her below that snip, so she'll have a piece that has 5 or 6 starts on it. Other than that, we've got more of these Hygrophilas over here. Some of these are blue Hygrophila, very pretty. It's just kind of your standard green plant, but sometimes when you've got so many fancy plants, that's what you need, you know? And here's that Cat Bomba in a lower light. You still get the hints of pink. It still opens and closes and does some kind of cool stuff in low light, but it's not going to be quite as spectacular as I showed you up in the tank with very high lighting and CO2. CO2 is definitely going to help the spacing of the leaves and make it much tighter. All right, guys. Well, we're kind of coming to an end here. I've crammed a lot of info into one video and kind of talked quickly. I'm sorry about that if that is rough for you. But I hope that you found some plants that you dig. Here's more Potamogeton gayi. I hope you found some plants you dig, and I hope that this helps you on your way a little bit with deciding some of the things that you want to do. Here's some more low light Rotalas. Here with a kind of lack of any purple color or anything. Same with the Ludwigia repens and glandulosas over here, but still lovely plants texture wise. They grow tall, they take nitrates out, and they are just fine as as what they are, plants. Here's the AR Mini back here again, the Alternanthera renickii Mini. Another great plant. Look at that color. But it's just a little what's the word? Bled out, or a little faded out compared to in highlight tanks. So there is all of that. All right, you guys. I hope that this was helpful to some degree. And I hope that you guys are doing well with your aquariums at home. You know, instead of duckweed, I highly recommend getting red root floaters with the lovely red roots. Don't start with the duckweed, not even once. And also salvinia, these cute little funnels and cups, rather than duckweed, the green dots that just get everywhere and ruin your life and get in all your tanks. All right, you guys. Have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon. This was the low light, low tech basic intro. Here's more Rotala. Intro info to some aquarium plants that I hope you guys will thoroughly enjoy. And these all, since they're stem plants, can just be trimmed, and then she can put them in her aquarium. And just like over here, you recognize some of these plants, guys, in this low light. This is a very low light tank here. And you just plant them. Now they'll get algae sometimes, so be careful and look at my algae reduction videos if you want to know how to kind of mitigate some of that and end up with a tank without algae, you know, things like shrimp and stuff like that, rather than one with one. Also, another thing that I don't have time to touch on now, but I'll mention, is look at a lot of sword plants. They're great. There's some colorful ones. And also take a look at lily pads and lilies. Red tiger lilies, some of these Nymphaea micrantha, Nymphaea minutia, that's what this is here. And that you can get all sorts of colors in a low-tech tank. Right here is a crypticern here, 2 of them. And this one is pink flamingo or pink panther. Great plant, and it's growing right out of sand. No substrate help whatsoever. And here is more of the Sawasser tang that I was talking about. It's great for shrimp and baby fry, stuff like that, as well as the Java moss and Christmas moss in here, and peacock moss. And that's where I will leave you guys. So have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye!